made my own spaces. Like I remember when I made my series over here, like I think that employed like 45 people. So like I kind of created a space around me and other people who believed in what I believed in. And
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, all the way from Perth, Australia. I know my personal friends from Australia will say, "What, Kellen? Who do you have?" I have Charmaine Bingwa, and I'm going to tell you guys, you have to see the film that she's in on Amazon Prime for all you primers out there, called Black Box. This thing, I might not watch it at night, even though I did, but you know, this is America where we have a lot of guns, so things us. We just shoot first and figure it out later. But Miss Charmaine, how are you doing?
I'm very good on a nice Thursday night or whatever it is over here. So yeah, watching the sun go down. Very good.
Awesome. While your sun is going down, my sun will probably rise on us as we talk. And, you know, I want to get into, because this won't be your typical interview, I promise you, because I'm going to be real nosy. But what is, you know, the reports say you got into acting kind of, you know, you were going to school for music and then you took a class and you got into acting. Acting, music, all entertainment, it's hard as hell to make a living at, you know, this. How did you, you know, in your final years of uni say, I'm going to do acting, and how did you make music and acting profitable?
Yeah, well, I think accidents are sometimes the best thing. So I definitely didn't go in with, you know, that wasn't part of the plan to find acting. But yeah, while I was there, I just fell absolutely in love with it. And I'm not sure I had a plan to make it profitable, but I think with a whole lot of passion, you could just do it. And yeah, I think it's just a matter of taking the small wins and, you know, you'd be in a production at university, and then that might turn into a little part on this Australian television, and then it might turn into that. But I also write and produce a lot of stuff as well. So that's helped me to kind of get my work out there in a way that was seen, and then bigger opportunities were able to come, and ... Amazon.
Well, and the whole point of the show is to show how, you know, entrepreneurs, talented creatives, business people start, sustain, and succeed in business. So somebody will say, wait, hold on. I have the same thing. I was doing music and then I, you know, fell in love with acting. But, you know, what was that first paid gig? Or did you have to do a lot of unpaid gigs just to get to that first paid gig? And what was that gig that made you say, oh, I can actually pay my bills on this?
I think my first paid gig came first, and I can't remember. It was on some crime show or something. And so that kind of made me go, oh, okay, I guess you can make money from that. And then, you know, it's always a bit of a thrill when you see your face on screen. But then there was a lot of like unpaid gigs, because I think I gave myself a time period of 3 months where, because I was at university doing it, I think that's a very different reality from doing it as your occupation. So I decided I'd give myself 3 months and take every single acting job known to man, whether it was like a music video or like just anything. And what surprised me, because you know, I'm a diverse actor in Australia, which isn't as typically diverse on screen. It's very much changing, and I'm very proud of my country. But I ended up getting like 15 jobs in this 3-month period. And it just gave me hope as to like, oh, number one, it let me know that I really like it, even the, you know, because all you see on television is the good parts, but there's a lot of boring, hard work parts as well. And then number two, it made me just go, okay, so I'm building up a bit of a muscle for it, and also building up a bit of a strategy for it as well.
So the first gig was in Australia, and, you know, was it the feeling that you got, or was it the size of the check to say, you know what, if I get, you know, 4 of these in a year, I actually can make this happen? You know, which came first?
I think it was more the feeling, you know, and I'm a personal believer, like you know, I still believe in like sound business plans and, you know, profit and loss statements and things like that. But I think, you know, I think where the feeling and passion is, like the money will come afterwards. you kind of have to follow that for a while first, I would say.
Now, here in the States, we always hear, people say, hey, I was an actor, I was homeless, I was living out my car, which is, a real thing for entertainment because you have so many people trying to do it. Australia, I would say, for what I know, not as much so, where everybody wants to be, famous. People don't just, want, you could go to a high school, how many people want to be famous, and, majority raise their hand. What type of pushback did you get from family, friends, classmates to say, you want to do what? How big of a stretch that is? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people thought I was insane. It's definitely not. It's not like, from spending time in LA, it's not the same thing where it's all about the arts and it's a viable career. People, like, if you're a performer, you're more the minority over here, which I think is changing as well. It's definitely becoming more of a hub for productions to grow in. But yeah, I think it was interesting for me as well because I was making money doing other things. So it felt like a lot more of a chance stopping like a regular check coming through to go and, move to America and risk it. So yeah, people absolutely thought I was insane. But I read something that I really liked today from Russell Crowe, and he was saying, like, I'm not discouraged when people criticize me, and I'm not adulated when people praise me. So I think you've just got to make sure you're in it for your own ends,
Yeah, no, definitely. And can you talk about, some of those jobs you guys mentioned? She mentioned Russell Crowe. So there's no beef between Australia and New Zealand.
We just claimed him.
Yeah. but can you talk about, some of those jobs that, kept you going while making these goals possible?
Well, I remember, because when I was actually shooting my own web series over here, I kept like a full-time, like managerial job. I was working for quite a prominent bank over here in quite a senior role in one of their marketing departments. So I did that, and at nighttime, I would go and act in a theater, and in my spare time, we would shoot this series. And in my spare time from that, I would drive an Uber. So it was like, I kind of had like as many jobs as possible to kind of make my dreams come true. And there's many sleepless nights, many.
Now, did you also have any paid music gigs while doing this? Because somebody could hear your story, go on YouTube and say, oh, I saw her on stages. She was in clubs. Of course, she was already rich. And so then she transferred into, transitioned into acting. Were there any paid music gigs?
There were, but they weren't exactly bankrolling me. But, that would be, decent, you make a decent amount of money as a musician, but it's not like I had like, 25,000 rolling in per gig. So, but yeah, I just did whatever would bring in the money so that I could do what I wanted to.
And banking to the arts. I mean, what a stretch.
It's different. It's different. I definitely was different to my colleagues. That's one thing for sure. But I found it's actually been really helpful in life in general, and also helpful in my career. I think it's definitely taught me how to manage money well, and it definitely taught me, it taught me the value of money actually, and the value of money being able to help you fulfill your dreams. And then also, it's just helped me to be a bit more kind of strategic about, and have a bit of a plan when it comes to my career.
No, definitely. And, I've read that you went to school for music. How do you get a banking job? Because a lot of folks, in America will say, how do you go for music? And they even give you a job. How does that work?
Well, the degree I got when I graduated was like a business degree. So that was like the first one I got. And but I've been playing music since I was 12 years old. So I've always had that in the background as well. So after I graduated, I got several different jobs in that role, in that field. And, time passes really quickly. And the next thing I know, I'm, working for this bank, and I worked for a number of different corporations like that. And yeah, I think I always kind of juggled both, but one win out in the end.
Now, I'm putting my creative hat on, and I always knew entrepreneurship was for me. And then when I started getting, real jobs, even, I started working at 15, 16, but even lower jobs, then I knew entrepreneurship was for me. My grandmother was an entrepreneur, right? I got fired a lot from these jobs. A lot of times creatives get fired a lot. So were you like the excellent bank worker, or were you always kind of writing something on the side and they'd be like, you're not really meant for this long term? Or were you, the just typical bank worker and you fit in and you blend in?
I don't know if I blended in, but I never got fired from one of those jobs, and I did my job well. So I don't know if it's just good acting or whatever, but I was able to show up and still have all this stuff I was doing on the side at nighttime. And yeah, maybe it was just good chameleon skills. But in terms of fitting in, I don't know if I I think my creative side always kind of won out in the end. I actually remember at this bank job, I would offer to DJ on Friday nights. Was such a weird situation. My life doesn't make sense when you say it out loud. I was banking and then I was acting and then it's very strange, but all very true.
No, it's only strange to those who live inside of a box. I tell everyone, even when I die, which I plan it to be in 80 years, don't put me in a box. It's total out the box thinking. We don't live inside your world. We live inside of the world that God created for me. And if you have to be in your box, you're outside or box, but it's not weird at all. So feel free to, tell those different stories, because too many of us, school kind of will brainwash you at times. That's what it's meant to do. I've taught from the college level to the, middle school, which is, in America is something you don't ever want to do.
Wow.
But when we talk about blending in, I mean, your background, you're born in Australia, but you come from, Zimbabwean parents. And I mean, I've held $1 billion Zimbabwean dollars before.
Have you?
Yeah. And I felt rich at the time. And then my friend told me, you can buy a Coke. So if you could talk about, you even fitting in or blending in, or where do you belong? Because there's so many things in your life that I could, pull and say, even if you're in this group, you're different because of that. And so can you talk about that? How do you fit in a culture that, it's not really a lot of people, I would say, like you?
Yeah, true. I think it was, I think I had long periods of searching when I was living in Australia, and I think I had a very definite vision or feeling of what I was about, where I was going, who I was going to be surrounded with, but I often didn't have it around me during that journey. But I definitely felt when I moved to Los Angeles, everything made sense. That just was my world. I just was like, oh, you don't have to have a definition or be in a box. And to be around creative people all the time, and where people take it seriously, and when, where acting's like an Olympics, I was just like, oh, this was what I was looking for the whole time. And I'm glad I found it. Sometimes you never find it,
So it took all the way going to LA. And I know, you got the Heath Ledger scholarship that, opened up a lot of doors for you. But before you got to LA, how did you, mentally be like, I don't fit in? Did you always have maybe a connection to creatives outside of Australia? Or is there, a group inside of Australia that just made you belong? Because a lot of people get depressed. A lot of creatives get depressed because nobody around them understands what they're talking about. Think about when the internet was created, and people say, hey, my music is going on the internet. The internet? What? Yeah, you're crazy. And that thing, is the devil, depending on who you would be talking to. So how did you keep your sanity until you got to LA to figure out, okay, there are a lot of people like me?
Well, I think there was a few people over here that would and it doesn't have to be many friendships that where people really understand you on a level, but I think there was just a few really key ones, and they were often established actors or had 20 years experience on me, or had tried different things. So I think I had a lot of really sort of like unofficial mentor people that would kind of inspire me and encourage me to grow, and had careers that I wanted. And so I was lucky to be surrounded by that. And then also I feel like I sort of like, rather than focus on feeling not finding my space, sort of made my own spaces. Like I remember when I made my series over here, like I think that employed like 45 people. So like I kind of created a space around me and other people who believed in what I believed in. And even when I was working at the banking jobs, like crazy things, like I would go to the bosses and say like, hey, to help culture on Friday nights, can I DJ and bring my equipment in? And they would just let me do it. So I kind of brought myself to all the places. So I never kind of felt lonely. I'm not sure how they liked it, but.
And do you always feel Australian, or, does any of Rhodesia, aka Zimbabwe, having African parents, I know, there's pressures put on you, and that's why I'm like, oh, she had African parents, of course, that's why she got into banking. They probably made
yeah, explains that detour.
Yeah, like how do you go in both worlds, or do you just say I'm Australian and my parents just happen to be from Zimbabwe and I've been there, but how do you deal with that?
This is such a lame phrase, but I feel like a bit of like I don't know, like a child of the universe or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I think as an actor, you get very used to like not having a base. And but yeah, like my Zimbabwean heritage is so important to me, and I feel like it shapes who I am as an artist, and it's so important to my acting. But so is the Australianness as well, particularly in my personality. And then I love the way like people from the US are just like, yeah, like really directional, and like I'm gonna get that, and like really believe in chasing their dreams and going for the stars. So I love like all of it, and I just think I steal from like the best from cultures,
Okay, so you're like taking from Australia, from Zimbabwe, and America, and that American dream. I mean, that's what we always hear in the media. It's really pushed. I saw on your social media you were congratulating. I say the vice president and the president. We do it in reverse, but most people wouldn't even know you're Scott Morrison, the prime minister here in America. You could give them $1 million, they would not be.
No, I bet.
So you are really, once you got to LA, you found a home, you say, but you go back to Australia. So what, I know you have a place in LA with your guitars that you have and love.
You've done your research. Well done.
Got to. And so, what makes you go back to Australia?
My family's here. My friends are here. The industry is here as well. I mean, there's certain projects and things. I was due to come back here to do a play. It got cancelled with COVID, which is, think obviously COVID makes you stay where you are for the meantime. So yeah, and then, I feel like it was like a once a year trip type thing. So, but yeah, I think I'll always love Australia, but I really do love the heartbeat of LA and overseas.
No, I love to hear that, because people come here to America and they fall right into it, but home is home, and there's things that you can take here and bring back home. And I always push that for people, for especially Africa, because I want to ask you, what do you think, and are you a fan of the African cinema? I'm the biggest Nollywood collector in America that doesn't sell Nollywood movies, but I just love so many things about the movies for, now 2 decades that I've been just a collector. Everywhere I go in the world, if I see it, I got to buy it. VCD. So how do you feel about, African cinema?
Well, I think the most exposure that I've had to it is Nollywood. And to be honest, it's usually when I'm like sitting in a hairdresser's chair and they just have it like kicking on in the background. But, you sit there for an hour and then you're like, oh yeah, what is this plot line? So, but I see such great artists coming from there. Like, if particularly in Zimbabwe, like there's other people, like very good friends of mine, like Retizio Mambo and Tongai Chisaria. I've just mispronounced his surname, sorry, but he'll forgive me. But I think there's such amazing like talent coming from there, and I think it's great when they're doing great things internationally, and then you can always bring it back home. You know what I mean? I mean, for me, I'd love to one day go there and start something. And I think like as an artist and a creator, like whatever you've been fortunate enough to have, you want to pass it on, you know?
No, definitely. I look at it, and I definitely have some movies that I personally I want to do. So when you're ready to go, I'll tell you how we can even have others finance some of that for us.
Right.
You know, and I say that because to make a movie in Africa is it's a cheap price. I mean, there's people, you know, spending 25,000, you know, some less to create and it's just, you know, how much does it cost to create a film in Australia or America?
Yeah.
That you can say 25,000, even for, you know, a small project. I don't know about Australia. What's the going rate or average rate for the films that you're doing right now?
Oh, I think it's pretty much the same. Like we're having a lot of like international projects come over here. So I think it's just the same. They just take advantage of the fact that the dollar's a little bit cheaper. So, you know, I think it's 72 cents Australian is an American dollar. So they get like a really big break from that. And then I think the government offers production incentives as well. But yeah, I think, you know, my main thing about bringing movies to Zim, which would be amazing, is just what it would do for the people and all the entertainers who are there with aspirations and dreams who maybe don't have the opportunity to go to the States would, you know, I think you could just turn the place alive by creating that industry or developing and pushing it.
Especially coming from the West, where you're already like, I call it American privilege, but for you, it could be Australian privilege. Nobody hates an Australian accent. And, and you open your mouth and you know, people doors start to open that don't necessarily open for locals as quickly. You know, and I just find that to be just a great thing that you can create. And also you don't have to worry about the union, you know, being in LA, permits and union and this and that. You can be you to create, and no one besides police breathing down your neck, you know, and you pay them off, give them a couple dollars, and they leave you alone.
Give them a role or something.
Yeah. And I say in most of Africa, in Ethiopia and the Tigray region, they don't play that at all. Don't try that. I have. You'll end up.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. So, you know, you said, you know, one of your projects got postponed to COVID. Has COVID opened up any doors, allowed you to write more or, you know, talk more with investors? Like, has there been any positives during COVID?
Yeah, no, it's been, I mean, I just think you just have to take change as it comes. And it's been, you know, a few things got cancelled, but things will start up again eventually. And also, yeah, it's definitely allowed me more time to write. You know, it was still great that the Amazon movie still came out during that time period as well. And I think was better for the movie that people were at home and looking for something to watch in October. And yeah, like I think there's been many like positives as well. So yeah, and they're still unfolding, you know.
Okay. Have you, and I want to, you know, talking about business, you know, what has been able to sustain you? Because we see like artists here, you know, Gabrielle Union talked about some of her actor friends, you know, not have saved. They bought the Bentley, but they didn't put anything in their bankroll. And we've seen, you know, folks say, if not for OnlyFans, I wouldn't have my, you know, $6,500 mortgage I could pay, you know, and stuff like that. So what has been able to bankroll you, or is it just kind of, I saved very well?
Well, I think I definitely learned a lot of financial skills working at the bank. And so I'm very good at utilizing finances that come in and the ones and the stuff that I have already, you know what I mean? So I'm very grateful for that job. Taught me to, I feel like it's an industry where you can go from earning nothing to earning a lot very quickly. And I think people sometimes get caught out, like you say, by just spending all your money as fast as it comes in, but that's definitely not my mindset.
Oh, okay. It's you know, it's the African in you. You just
Yeah, I mean, like, I just think you have to treat everything in life like it's precious and just, you know, don't be throwing away money on silly things.
Now I can tell you, with knowing how creatives, entertainers, especially in LA, Miami, New York, think, I mean, that's a business for you. To show people how to manage their money, because it's not like a wealth investor or your CPA. You're actually in the life, living the life, going to the same events and parties, that they go to, but you're saying, this is how you can better spend your money. So, man, we've created a whole possible another business. You guys bother her, hit her
If
up.
only I had time, but I do hear. I'd be very expensive for my services if I was to do it.
Well, if they're going to spend it on a Birkin bag, they might as well give it to you to, really put it in another your bag and show how to grow. You've gotten so many different awards from Australia. LA, has recognized you. You go to the big events. To you, what has been your greatest accomplishment so far?
Yeah, I've been blessed with each one, but I think it would have to be being the recipient of the Heath Ledger Scholarship. There's just what that platform is and what it means is just such an amazing thing. I mean, Heath Ledger left an absolute beautiful catalog of work, and to even have your name mentioned in the same sentence as him is phenomenal. And that enabled me to really get a proper international introduction in the industry and get an amazing team around me and be able to put me in the position where I can be in films like Black Box and other things. So that was a real life changer. And it also is where I've met a lot of my friends who were like finalists and the Australians in film community. So it's such a blessing. That would have to be the one.
Now, allegedly, so people don't start, really hitting you up asking for a loan, that's a $30,000 scholarship, and people will say, "Oh, she got 30,000. She can help me during COVID." No, it's been a minute, and 30,000. Even if she has it, it's all tied up. So don't go for money. But you think that the connections were more valuable than the money, and the things that came with it, more than just the funds that came with it.
I would absolutely agree. Like, and money comes and goes, but being able to get in those rooms and meet all those decision makers and just other great creatives is wonderful.
And connection is part of this game, and you're tied in even behind the scenes. What is a better feeling? Creating your own like Little Sisters, or is it acting? And even though you acted in it too, but which one gives you more fulfillment? And if you had to pick one, not that you have to, because you live outside of the box, which one do you enjoy more?
For me, it would be the acting. Like, I love creating projects. I mean, how being a producer started for me was initially just to create opportunities for me to act. But I think the more you get to know story, I think it makes you valuable in all areas. Like, the better writer you become, it makes you a better actor. The better director you become, you start to think like an editor. So I think it's all very, very useful. But I think my ultimate love is doing the thing.
Okay, and when you prepare for a role, what is your process to prepare for it? And because you play the villain and you play it well, how do you get out of that, or you just stay a villain?
I love that question. I think to prepare a role, it's just different every time. Like, I feel like there's always like one key to like unlock each character, and you sort of have to go on this investigative journey to try and find it. Like, so one character, it might be the way they walk, and you just discover them because you feel it in your spine. But another character might be the way they speak, or it might be what they're going after, or it might be their personal history. So it really depends on who the character is and just where I intersect with that character. And then for me, I think, just trainings help to be, I'm very much like, I'm in it, I'm out of it. Unless it's like a real character that means like that really, really kind of, I mean, they all stay with you, but it really intercepts. Like, I think that's what we do. We go in, we go out. So, yeah.
Well, let's even go deeper because Black Box, you are basically playing a dead person. That's what you're playing, and and you're alive at some points. But that mentally, does that do anything for you? Because we've seen folks like Tupac, right, go into roles and some say never come out. So how does that, does that at all, when you watch yourself and, even if you're how much of your face is shown or not. I mean, I could see your mother saying, please don't play that role.
Yeah, I feel like I always get really like messed up characters to play, so which I quite like. I think anything that deviates from the norm a lot, it's more exciting for me. But with that one, and I mean, technically she's not dead, so but she's obviously in his little black box world. But yeah, I think it's like a deeply emotional role. Like I think I had to invest a lot for that one. So I do know what you mean about finding the separation, but I think as an actor, you learn to be able to find ways to separate from it and to get some space from it as well. And then sometimes like you're physically filming in a different location as well. So you also have like a plane ride to help you decompress, come back to reality. So, but while you're in it, you just want to be so in it. So.
Okay, and you can totally get whatever character is out of you, and just like you can get back to who Charmaine is 100%.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like characters leave some like residual stuff, but I think it's more like you give to them and you learn from them as well. So I think you take the lessons that character gives you, which is such an amazing thing in life. Otherwise, if you live as yourself, you kind of really don't get that much insight and perspective in the way that you do when you analyze all these different lives. And yeah, but then I think definitely there's clear ways for me to separate, because like technically, if you really thought you were them, that's kind of insanity. But you're definitely like in them and connected with them, but the process doesn't get too close. But I know what you mean though, that there's some parts of characters that are hard to leave behind.
Yeah, because some might be fun to play. That I really going to pray for whoever plays Hugh Hefner when they make that movie, because I mean, what kind of a life that was, and you as a man, you're like, oh, I have a wife and kids, whatnot. I couldn't imagine, but I could imagine, having all of that around you. Not to say that it's not my purpose, but many men would say, yeah, I'll take that life. So to get that off of you, whoever ends up playing that role, I'm not going to do any do too much talking on that. Sometimes I know too much, but with all your success that you have had, having, and going to have, what is a community give back that you are doing or that you're want to do in the future?
Well, the stuff that you say about building industries and helping to give other people the opportunity, it's absolutely of interest to me. I like regularly help other actors with their dreams and aspirations, and even where I'm at now, just coaching people on what I've learned and what beautiful mentors and coaches have passed on to me, and to help them to have the career aspirations that they want, particularly if they're international. And then just helping to, I want to do everything to be a part and a contributor of the Australian industry. And I think the biggest and best legacy that you can leave is stories that change people's hearts and minds.
No, awesome. Well, if there's anything you want to leave the people with, I don't want them to get the game overload. I want them to go, research your career. If they have something, productive to say, to reach out to you and say, whatever they'd like to say. Maybe they want to say, you know what, I had a film and you'd be perfect for it. They have a budget and they actually need your, in front of the camera and behind the scenes. But if anything you want to leave with the people, feel free to do that.
I just think, well, number one, thank you for being the entrepreneur that you are and helping share people's stories. And I just think I'm like a real passion person. So if there is something in your heart that you've been wanting to do, and have been afraid to follow. Like, not that my word's going to matter to you, but I think just do it, trust yourself and have faith that things will work out. And with enough like passion and hard work, like anything's possible.
Tell me about your movie in Africa.
Yeah. So earlier this year, last year, I'm very bad at remembering dates and places, but I shot a film called Trees of Peace, which is actually about, based on true events, or inspired by true events rather, about these 4 women that survived the Rwanda genocide that really didn't happen that long ago. And it's a very deeply moving film. It's yet to be released, but it's a stunning picture, and there's some great, my castmates, amazing performances, and yeah, I think it's really important for me to tell stories that matter, and being an African person, I think that's such an important story to tell.
And when and where could this movie be seen? Like, how long do we have to wait to see this?
Well, it's currently in post-production, so I'm sure it'll be probably like the second half of 2021. Who knows at the moment? I feel really bad for filmmakers. As an actor, we kind of have the easy part, but in this new COVID landscape, I'm sure it's very hard to finish a movie, get a movie out at the moment. So yeah, they're still in post-production, but it will be coming out. So please do check that out. It's called Trees of Peace.
Okay, and is it possible that this could be a Netflix, an Amazon Prime, or will you put it on your own website because you say, I want to take the Dame Dash approach and control the narrative?
I don't know if I'm going distribution yet, but I'm sure it's going to be streamed find a wonderful home to be streamed at, and I'm sure it'll be very accessible to many people. It's such a great film. I'm very, very proud of being a part of it and telling a story like that.
And where did you film it at?
We filmed it, it's combination because they've got some footage from Rwanda, but it was shot in a sound stage because this, I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but the particular location we end up in there's kind of one location to it. So, or one key place, if that sort of makes any sense. Don't want to spoil anything.
Okay, but did you go to Rwanda at all or to film it?
Our director did. Our wonderful lead actress Eliane, she's from Rwanda, so they shot some stuff over there, and then my proportion of it was shot in locally.
Okay, and I mentioned that because my audience, it was about 2 weeks ago, we put out our partnership with our partners who are taking 10 families by January to Rwanda to relocate and teach them to do real estate. And so it's not just going to Africa. The program is to teach you how to make money in Africa. So
beautiful.
Yeah, so I love to hear that because Rwanda has totally, flipped around from what people saw on Hotel Rwanda, and it's open for business and citizenship if people want.
And so, I mean, it has the highest proportion of female leaders in their government. The place is really flipped from what the memories of it were, and I think it's just an amazing testament to the people that were there, that they live in harmony, especially when there's so much disharmony going on in the world right now. But I just have to say, I love how much stuff that you do with Africa and how much you give back. It's a really beautiful thing. It's super important to me.
Yeah, it's a blessing. When you say female leaders, how peaceful would the world be if the majority of the leaders were women?
I think very peaceful, like we saw an election with 2 white guys running and there's people in the streets and no one can agree on anything. And I think, I'm so proud of Kamala, and I think it's a really, really significant, marker to change. And I think hopefully it brings some more things. But, you look at the Prime Minister of New Zealand and she's just killing it in terms of leadership. So maybe that's what we need.
Well, no, I wouldn't say, maybe, because even Australia has had a prime minister that's a female. And, not that Australia always wants to go to war with people anyway. You guys are sometimes as peaceful as Canadians, but it just like, I just want to put that out there because we keep voting for the same people, at least in America. And it's like, we got to mix it up and, you know,
Yeah.
and people always like to say, well, the female leaders might not be able to handle it. I'm like, what are they going to cry themselves
Come
into?
on now. Exactly. Well, I think a lot's going to change in the next 4 years. So hopefully we'll be more receptive to that idea.
Hopefully, your words definitely matter. Anything positive, inspirational nowadays, especially. Oh man, it's like finding gold or a penny on the floor. It's worth picking up. So you guys have gotten the game. I hope you like, share, subscribe. We thank Miss Charmaine for coming on. As you know, we take stuff offline. Peace, y'all. Be blessed.